Okay, this video is Doug Lisle corrected on health, on evolution, and on God. Okay, so Doug Lisle was on the Chef AJ show, and he was talking about sugar. That was fine. He gave a good talk on that. But then he started talking about why we do good deeds, and I think he overdid it a little bit with his little evolutionary psychology. And I also think he's wrong about what he said with regard to health. Okay, so let's go over that. So Doug said that people get 80 years on average, and 10 plus or minus 10. You lose 10 if you're unlucky, you get an extra 10 if you're lucky, and that's just about how it goes. And yeah, the low-fat vegan diet is nice, but he didn't even say low-fat vegan. He said the vegan diet's nice, but it only gets you about 5 years. I would say that's the wrong way to think, and here's the reason why. I think it's important to differentiate lifespan versus health span. So lifespan is how long you live till you die. Health span is how long are you healthy till. And it's highly relevant because the average SAD diet eater, standard American diet eater, they're fat and sick and stupid by the time they're 60. Most of the people I deal with by the time they're 60, cognitively slow, and they're kind of miserable. They're hypertensive. They're pre-diabetic or diabetic. They're taking a bunch of pills. The men are all impotent. So what I'm saying is, if you're a low-fat vegan, you quite often, you'll die at the end, all right? But usually everything's working up until the end, okay, or close to the end. So you get a much longer health span because, average American, they're often, fat with problems. 50% of men are impotent by 50 or higher number than that. So, keeping the Johnson working is a pleasant thing. So your quality of life declines significantly when you got all the Western diseases. Western diseases are obesity, hypertension, prediabetes, diabetes, and everything that goes with it. Atherosclerosis, plugging up the arteries in the heart, the Johnson, the brain, and all the other organs of your body. Also for just your physical appeal, your attractiveness. The average SAD eater, SAD diet eater, female, she's fat and unattractive by the time she's 40, okay? The old joke about Eastern European women is that they're very beautiful when they're young, but, by the time they're in their 40s, they look like Stalin's housekeeper, okay? And, tons of women, they make an excuse, oh, it's because I have babies. But, low-fat vegans, they're skinny after they have their babies. They still look really good. The next thing is, a low-fat vegan female, she can look good into her 70s. Look at Annette Larkin. She's still very attractive in her 70s. Okay, so I think that's a big thing you got to correct. Otherwise, you're not going to be doing so well. All right, so the vegan diet can add 30 years or more, 40 years of health span, feeling good, looking good. Okay, the next thing is talking about evolution, love, and religion. He said basically there was no altruistic deeds, that everything was for secondary gain, basically. And evolutionary biology shows this. By the way, I was an A+ student in evolutionary biology at Stanford, so I got a lot of experience studying it and reading about it. And I do think evolutionary psychology is useful. You can work towards an explanation of things that can be pretty useful. But it's just part of the story. And love gets people to do things that are not in the best interest, not in their own best interest or a reproductive best interest, but just because they love somebody, even if it doesn't make reproductive sense. For example, my wife, I had an old house that was magnificent with a backyard swimming pool, backyard tennis court, backyard basketball, indoor racket court, weightlifting area, wrestling area, and I pushed it too far with the wife, turning the house into a gymnasium, and I put an indoor basketball court in there. She went apeshit bananas and bought a new house and told me we're either getting divorced or we have to move out, that I was breaking the foundation of the old house. Everybody loved it except for her. She ruined everything like a jerk. So, but anyways, I went with her for the sake of the kids because, we had 3 kids together and another child, and I loved them all, and I wanted to do what was best for them. So I went with her to the new house, even though I could have easily, just at that time, it was easy. I knew a lot of women at that time. I could just got a new woman, had a bunch more kids. And then the kids would eventually want to come back. Actually, that's what I should have done, but I said, no, my kids are my highest priority. I've seen lots of kids messed up by divorce. So I said, I'll sort of sacrifice what I want, because I didn't want to leave that old house. It was magnificent. It's the best house in the world. And go to this stupid new female sort of house where there's nothing to do. Dog shit all over the place. Okay, so anyways, I did it because I love my kids, all right? And I also, when I had to go for residency, I wanted to go to Harvard. They told me to sign the paper, we'll take you. Instead, I stayed local for the sake of my mother because I love my mother. There was no reproductive benefit to me from an evolutionary sense, but I love my mother and I stayed for her. In retrospect, it was probably the wrong thing to do. But again, love gets you to do things that are not the best from an evolutionary point of view, but you're happy to do it. You feel right about yourself, even though from an evolutionary point of view, it might be stupid. Okay, and people do things from a peer pressure point of view that are stupid. I see lots of women, nice female doctors in their late 30s, 40s. They never got married. They forgot to get married. They put their career above. They were conditioned to do that by societal peer pressures, can get people to ignore evolutionary reproductive thinking. Okay, so the next thing then, what about atheism? Doug is an atheist. He thinks that scientific evidence supports it. I would say no. I know a lot of science and biology. And one little thing is just this picture right here. This is a picture of if you're walking on the beach and you saw your name written in letters, you would know that an intelligent person had written your name on the sand, okay? They had to be literate. They had to do it with an intent to put your name there. It wouldn't. The water can't do that. It wouldn't happen by accident. And that's a pretty simple thing. Even just your first name. All right. So, what am I saying here? Well, the DNA, the human genetic code in every cell in our body, is 3.3 billion base pairs, and it's billions of times more complex, the chemistry, than it is to write your name. So what I'm saying is, if it took a literate person with intention to write your name, volition, how could 3.3 billion base pairs get written spontaneously? They couldn't. Nobody can explain where the information comes from, okay? They can't explain how the brain gets 100 billion neurons connected up to 10 times as many glial cells, having over a trillion, 100 trillion connections. Nobody can explain that. Nobody can explain the human eye. Nobody can explain immune system. We can barely sort of roughly describe embryology and development, the clotting system. All these things are too complex to have just happen spontaneously, and the preliminary systems are not complex enough to explain how these could have arisen from them. I would also say that religion also motivates people in ways that go against what's their evolutionary benefit. For example, why do men go to monasteries for a life of religion or women to convents? That's not in their reproductive interest from an evolutionary biology sense. Why do I talk about problems with coffee, caffeine, soy, MSG, MFG, omega-3, nuts, seeds, and why do I talk about the benefits of cruising? All of those things get my view counts reduced on YouTube, okay? All of those things get me shadow you-know-what banned, okay? Because they're like against being promoted on this channel, whatever. So why would I do that? Because I think it's the right thing to do. Because based on my personal philosophy, based on Christianity, I think that's the right thing to do, to tell the truth. And also, my ego, I want to be the best doctor in the world, and I have to tell the truth. So that's why I don't sell out. Just go on the internet. You'll see one after another of the famous names selling out, telling people to eat soy and all this other BS about coffee and tea and all this other crap, nuts, omega-3, all this BS, okay? You'll hear it nonstop because that's where the money is, okay? Why did I accepted being fired, okay? I didn't protest that because I wouldn't change what I say from the Chef Asia show. Why do I say these things even though they prevent me from being interviewed by almost anyone, okay? I care what I say before God. I care about the promise I made to my mother. I care about wanting to truly be the best doctor, not just pretend to be. So I have to do the right thing, even though it costs me a lot. I mean, I've sort of accepted my fate. They'll never allow my channel to become real popular, okay? That's just the fate you have to accept if you're going to tell the truth. And it's like, Boyd had said, you either get a fancy title and get all the bells and whistles, but be a phony, or you do the right thing. It's hard to get both. Very few people can get both, okay? McDougall managed it, but he came in early before things clamped down more, okay? I looked at most of the great achievements in the history of the world. Most of them come from Christianity. And you take a culture too, and you start converting the people to Christianity, all of a sudden they start achieving a lot more in the arts and the science and literature, etc., and music and painting. That's why everybody wants to come to the Western cultures. But it's just a fact. Look at the greatest novels ever written. Look at the greatest paintings ever made. Look at the greatest music ever made. It's just a fact. And this multiculturalism stuff, saying that other cultures produce this stuff, it's not true. The Aztecs didn't produce this type of art, okay? The other cultures, just go all around the world. They don't produce it. They got lots of high IQ people that can do a lot of things, make a lot of money, but they can't produce these things. Christianity generates lots of great things, okay? It's like if you want to be a writer, the Christian tradition's the best by far. There's nothing even close. Same thing with painting and a lot of other things, okay? And you also look at society. A society has rejected Christianity and it's turned away from that. The basically default religion of the USA currently is atheistic Darwinism. And what has happened in the USA since it's promoted and accepted atheistic Darwinism in the schools, in the grade schools, the high schools, the college. They fire a college professor if he talks about intelligent design. I think intelligent design is correct because you can't explain it with evolution or biology. You can't even explain origin of life. Origin of life is geologic chemistry. It's not biologic chemistry, okay? Origin of complexity, evolution can't explain that. Mutation is like scratching an audio CD. Can you improve on Bach or Mozart or Beethoven with a scratching their audio CDs? I don't think so, okay? So what I'm saying is, as we had a loss of Christianity in American society, what is happening? We're returning to barbarism. We're turning into a third world country. We're seeing a return of slavery. Okay, we're having a return of slavery in the USA because we're turning our backs on Christianity. What do you think all this traffic stuff's about? We're having child sacrifice. What do you think all these A.B. Orsons, are about? Okay, that's child sacrifice for convenience. Like we used to mock the evil pagan religions. That's what we're doing now. What do they do with those children? They package them like an auto chop shop, and they sell all their parts and they're made into medicines and people eat them. That's cannibalism. So we have returned to child sacrifice and cannibalism because we have rejected Christianity. I think that's wrong. And the only way these things will not continue is if we return to a Bible-based worldview. And big money won't allow it, but the society will continue to go down this path until it does.